Hey, this is Twice Crispy, and you're watching Twice Crispy. Today's video, I want to do something a little different here. I want to look at new features and changes that I would like to see added into Dead by Daylight in the next year, 2 years, whatever. Some of these are going to be features and changes that the community has called for that I strongly agree with, and some of them are going to be my own input, so take it with a grain of salt. If you like the ideas, cool. If you don't, that's cool too. Not like they're probably going to implement the majority of this. So yeah, let's dive right into it. Number 1 would be casual and ranked modes. I know inherently this game isn't competitive by nature, but at the same time, it's extremely competitive by nature. I know that there's the argument that because it's an asymmetrical game, that a competitive mode can't exist. The game's too imbalanced, it's not fair to one side or the other, perks need balancing, which I agree, yeah. Some of that stuff is true, okay, sure. But at the end of the day, it's really not that serious. Some of us want to come in and just have a chill time, and some of us really want to sweat it out. And sometimes we want to switch it up mid-session. There are a lot of other games that are similar in matchmaking concepts that have ranked and casual modes. Games like League of Legends, Smite, Overwatch, Dota 2, and CSGO all have ranked and casual modes, and all have some element of imbalance by nature. Let's look at Overwatch as an example. I used to play a lot of Overwatch for about 5 or 6 years, so this is something I can speak to very well to give comparisons to. Although Overwatch was a 6v6 and now a 5v5 instead of a 4v1, all the characters have different abilities and damage rates. This was problematic in Overwatch's infancy and even when new heroes came out later on down the road. The game had a lot of must-pick characters in order to win. Let's look at Mercy when the game first released. If you didn't have a Mercy on your team, the game was a loss. That didn't stop developers at Blizzard from making a competitive mode, and I don't see any reason Dead by Daylight can't have a competitive mode as well. The second thing that I know a lot of the community's been talking about, and it's been a really hot topic for a while now, is having some type of auto blood web. After rank reset last week, I spent 14 minutes in the blood web. That's insane. I don't want to spend that kind of time, and I know you don't want to spend that kind of time either. Most of us don't care what we get in the blood web, as long as we're just getting through the levels of it. Having an on-off toggle would probably be the best way to go about this, since there's going to be some people that want to do the whole web no matter what, but then sometimes they want to get specific stuff out of the web, so you could turn this off and select each node individually. This would be an absolutely massive quality of life change that the developers have just been brushing under the rug. The third thing that I'd like to see in the coming years of Dead by Daylight is new game modes. We have the same single game mode since it released in 2016. Again, I'll reference Overwatch as an example. Overwatch had quick play and then quickly added a season 1 of competitive. It took a little while after launch, but they eventually came out with arcade mode, which had some really great goofy game modes that you go in there specifically to not take seriously. My favorite game mode was Total Mayhem, where everyone's abilities were on really short cooldowns and then all the characters got double the health. This game mode was wildly imbalanced, and although they did have to make some tweaks because it became unfun for some people at some points, generally everyone was just there to have a good time. Game modes they could add to spice things up could be a 2v8 with 2 killers, 8 survivors, a lot more gens, maybe double the map size, something like that. Gun game could be really cool, where the killer, every time he gets a hit, changes to a random killer. It would be a great way to actually get people engaged with playing new killers too. A hide and seek mode, where if the killer sees you while you're inside of his terror radius, you're caught and out. And some type of capture the flag mode could also be really fun. I understand this is probably the most expensive and has the biggest overhead of the suggestions that I have in this video, but I think this would bring in a ton of new players and be able to keep the game fresh for people that have been playing it since day 1. Number 4 is kind of similar to number 3. I'd like to see some custom game mode modifiers. I'd like to be able to make new game modes in customs, so some sort of workshop would be really great. A really simple quality of life change would be able to load into a custom without killers if you're a survivor, and without survivors if you're a killer. Sometimes I just want to go try stuff, and I don't have someone to go test these things with. Now I understand they just added bots, so if you are a killer, you can load in with bots to go try some stuff. The problem is, maybe I just want to practice something, and I don't want the bots running gens. So being able to load in without any strings attached would be a huge benefit. I'd also like to be able to do things like turn off the endgame collapse or place generators in spots on the map that I like. Lastly on this subject, I'd also like to see that the custom games also has the same as the arcade mode that I suggested in the previous example. This could set the company up to make a custom game browser in the future, and it would be so fun because there's a lot of games out there with custom game browsers where people make some really great custom games and they're a ton of fun. For number 5, I think this one's going to be pretty damn controversial, and some of you may hate what I'm about to say. I'd like to nerf gen perks on both sides of the field for both killers and survivors. Currently, we're in this state of perpetually bringing generator perks because if the killer doesn't bring gen regression perks, then they get outplayed and lose because the survivors brought gen progression perks. And if the survivors don't bring good enough gen progression perks, then they lose because the killer has brought gen regression perks and they can never get a gen done. I think all this kind of sucks the fun out of the game because, quite honestly, I hate doing gens when I'm surviving, and I hate kicking gens when I'm killing. I think the most fun part of this game is the chases, and the developers need to focus more on that. I think long chases for both killers and survivors, if it's a good chase, is a lot of fun. Now when survivors are out there blasting through gens, a killer doesn't want to stay in a long chase. If a chase takes 30 seconds or more, they're probably going to abandon that. I think dialing back the intensity of just about every gen perk out there would be so healthy and beneficial for this game. Next up, for number 6, I want to talk about incentives to stay in the game. I want to say probably 1/3 of the games that I play for both killer and survivor, someone DCs or kills themselves on a hook almost instantly. Sure, you can punish bad behavior by taking away their ability to join the next game and, giving them a 5-minute ban or 15 or whatever the case is for how many times you DC. But that's obviously not stopping people. I think instead we should be rewarding people who play the game. People that don't DC, people that actively participate in the gameplay. That kind of thing should be rewarded so that people have less incentive to actually just quit. I don't even think blood points or shards is really good incentive to keep people in the game. We get that stuff anyways by playing, so adding more on doesn't really do much. Maybe doing something like a skin giveaway where there's a progression bar, and the more games you complete, the more it fills up, and every time you leave a game, you lose a decent chunk of that progress. I know that's probably something people don't want to see, but I think that it would really help the community, and the games would be more fun because people wouldn't just be leaving for any old reason. Lastly, number 9, I'd like to talk about universal account merging. So I totally understand that behavior needs to make money, and a decent chunk of that money is going to come from new sales from copies of the game on different platforms. With the route they've been taking of having the limited edition skins to purchase, I think that's a valid reason and a good example of why they should have account merging. There are also people that want to upgrade their hardware. So maybe if someone started off playing on Switch, but they just got a really bomb PC, and they want to play the game on PC now. They had a ton of cool cosmetics on Switch, but now they come over and they start from absolute scratch. Their progression's gone, their cosmetics are gone. It just sucks to have to start completely over on a game that you've dumped a ton of time and possibly money into. I also think that discourages people who do change their platform to purchase or repurchase more cosmetics, because nobody wants to keep spending money on the same thing over and over again if you already own it. Well, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you liked what I had to say. If you agree with me or disagree with me on anything, tell me about it in the comments. I'd love to engage in some dialogue with you guys about how you think the state of the game currently is, what could be improved, if there's any core features or changes that I missed that a lot of people would like to see. Tell me about it. I'm totally down to have this conversation, and I think it's healthy that the community has these discussions. Alright, y'all. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.